My name is Thomas Bays Hollis, and I went into the Navy Reserve after I served active duty. And I was a lieutenant senior grade. I graduated. The next day I had my orders to report to the Miantonomah, the Minelayer in Williamsburg. Well, I just took it in stride. This is part of my setup. This is where I go. This is the Navy order. And I was so impressed with how the Navy does everything completely. These enlisted men are so good. And they had all the orders in the right form and so on. And so it was an easy transition. And the other thing about the Navy, if you have a clean record, your pay is constant and your promotions are right on schedule. When there's an incident at Annapolis, promoted to a lieutenant junior grade, I'm with him. I'm promoted the same time he is, and so on. Everything is so well organized. I guess it's that way in the Army, but the Navy, to my mind, is tops in that respect. Well, pretty big ship. But look, I'd seen other ships, so it didn't bother me. I said, I'm an officer now, and this is my duty. So, but I'll tell you what happened the first night. I had traveled all day. And you can imagine you're a little confused because you don't know just how you're going to get there. But I finally got there. And I went aboard and I reported at midnight. At midnight I got there. And they put me in bed on the second bunk in a room with another officer. He's on the first bunk and I'm on the second bunk. And it was such a rough day that I was tired, and all of a sudden I fell out of the bunk. And I dropped down and I hurt my back. Oh, it hurt. I hollered. I hollered like I woke up the whole ship. And this poor roommate of mine. So that was my initiation aboard that ship. Fell off the bunk, landed, hit my back, and I hollered like, man, it hurt so much. So that was my initiation aboard the ship. But they didn't hold against me. You know, we got along fine. Right away they gave me the duty. My duty is to take care of the mess hall. Now the mess hall for the officers is separate from the enlisted men. So there's an officer in charge, and he's in charge of these about 9 colored kids who serve the food, make it, and so on. So I was in charge of them. And I have to keep a record of how much money I spent for the food and so on. So that was my first duty, to take care of the officers' mess, they call it, mess, M-E-S-S, and take care of these kids. And they were always breaking dishes, and we had to buy new dishes and so on. So I got along with them okay, but they were a little bit rough. But my job was to keep them in tow and make sure they did their duty properly. So they prepared our food and fed us, did the dishes and so on. And they were pretty nice kids, but they had to be controlled. In fact, one of them actually went to the captain's cabin and stole some of the captain's food. Now the captain had better food than we had. He had special food. And they stole it. And he was furious. He lined them up on the deck. He said, now which one of you did this? None of them would squeal. But that's the way it was aboard ship. The enlisted men took care of that. They went and bought the food, brought it in, cooked it, and so on. Served it to us. No, I was just in charge of make sure they did their job good, keep the records on how much money was spent for food and so on. I had a supply officer who checked my records every month to make sure that I kept everything just right. So it was good duty, my first duty aboard ship. And then when we got underway, I was a lookout. And I told you my experience with lookout. It was cold out there, and we're going along looking for submarines. But I was anxious to see how the officer of the deck ran that ship. So I'd sneak into the pilot room, and all the captain's there. All of a sudden he said, "Hollis, get back there," he said. He hollered at me. So I went right back to my station as a lookout. And he was right. I shouldn't have done that. But that's, you know, you're young, you're a new officer, and you learn these things. So, of course, I would never do that again. Anything that's out there, primarily submarines. We were in the Atlantic. And if another ship is coming close by, you'd report that. Any danger, that's the purpose of a lookout. Maybe an enemy swimmer's coming towards the boat, you never know. So you report it. I enjoyed the officers, I enjoyed the men, and I enjoyed what I was doing. I enjoyed being on a ship. So I didn't feel that I had any real challenge. I just took it in stride. As a kid, I worked hard, and I knew what to do, what's right and wrong, and so on. Of course, I made a big mistake in sneaking into the plot room when I was a lookout, but you learn as you go along, you know. On the Minelayer, I did do some officer of the deck in port, not underway. And I remember I was officer of the deck, and the captain was having his guests come aboard to see a movie. Now, it was a hot day that day, and the men were chipping. They always chip, keep the deck of the ship nice and clean. They chip and then they paint, see. And these kids work hard. And I felt sorry for them. I'm officer of the deck now, and the executive officer said to me, "Pass the word, all men in dress uniforms." And I thought to myself, dress uniforms? These poor kids they've been sweating all day long. Now they got to put in a dress uniform just to please the captain. I didn't like the idea. So I didn't pass the order. And I got held. The executive officer came to me, he said, "Hollis, you didn't pass my order." I said, "I'm awful sorry, sir." I said, "I just felt sorry for those men." He said, "You can't do that. You're an officer." So he bawled me out. But they didn't hold against me. That's part of your training, you know. You're a brand new guy on ship, but I'll never forget that because I felt so sorry for those kids. So I wouldn't pass the word. The captain brought his guests aboard, and he wanted all these men to look real nice, you know, in dress uniforms. And they weren't. So he was mad, too. So that's what you learn. You learn as you go along. So I learned a lot on that ship. And I was a better officer for it. A navigating officer is a very important man. When I was aboard the Minelayer, we had an ensign who was a navigation officer, and he took us aground. He flunked, and we went aground, and he got help from the captain. So navigation is very, very important. And this kid, Martin Veggie from Florida, flunked. Now, he was just an ensign, just out of, and so it's understandable, but you can't do that. It was between Norfolk and Williamsburg. We had come from Norfolk, and on the way back to our base, it went aground. It wasn't a bad hit. It did do a little damage to the rudder, but it wasn't a bad hit. The captain can't go aground. That's against his record. As a matter of fact, he said, "Don't log that. You still got to log everything." He told the engineering officer, "Don't log that." He told the officer of the deck, "Do not log it." Now, he shouldn't have done that, but he knew that would go on his record, and he wouldn't get his promotion. So he got away with it. He was wild. God, he said, "Martin Vagey, come to my office." Now, Martin Vagey is just a little kid, an ensign from Florida. The poor guy made a mistake. He made a mistake. He's a navigator. Made a mistake. So he was bawled out for it. I don't know whether it was put in his record or not, but see, that's what you have to watch. In the Navy, these things go on your record if the captain wants to do it. See? Now, the captain didn't put anything in my record, so I got my promotion on schedule. But I'm afraid Martin Vagey was in trouble. Running aground, that's pretty bad. But he's young,